Welcome back to Face the State. I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for keeping it here. The longtime locals will definitely remember the New Year's flood of '97. Maybe, like me, you even walked downtown to see the waters of the Truckee overflowing its banks firsthand. While that one might be the most memorable, the Truckee does like to flood every so often. So there is a joint effort between our local governments to prevent that from becoming a major disaster. And George Robeson with the Truckee River Flood Management Authority is here to talk about that. TRFMA, it's a mouthful. George, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you. So for those who are not familiar with TRFMA, really quickly, did it get formed after the flood of '97, or is it totally separate from that?
Well, actually, the tax that supports TRFMA was done right after the 1997 flood. It was housed within the county for several years, and then around 2011, we became a joint agency where the two cities, Sparks and Reno, were also involved in governing this effort, so that it's more of a joint effort now.
Okay, so it's cities of Reno and Sparks, Washoe County, and any other stakeholders that are
There are other stakeholders, but those are the three that have representation on our board.
Okay, so you're funded by a portion of sales tax, special dedicated fund, and with that you have all these things that you do to try to prevent massive flooding.
That's correct.
All right.
That's great. Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, so I know that a big piece of that was the Virginia Street Bridge replacement that happened, I don't know, like how many years ago? 10 years ago now?
About 15 years ago
15 years?
now.
Oh my gosh.
Well, 12-ish, I should
Oh,
say.
I was about to say, I covered that. This is making me feel a little old. Okay, so Virginia Street Bridge was a big one because that was one of the major contributing factors in the '97 flood, correct?
That did cause some problems. We also helped fund the North Truckee Drain in Sparks, which has really helped with their drainage issues. And we also we actually, in joint effort with others, we built a levee and a flood wall right there by the Reno Sparks Indian tribe, right where the Walmart is and GSR is. So we've already started on this project. We want to complete the rest of it though.
Yeah, and we've had some flood watches that have come up since some of those projects have been done, and we've seen them work, right? We haven't had at least the major flooding issue that we saw in '97.
We haven't been challenged like we've been challenged in 1997. And what's interesting is every one of these floods, if the temperature raises 2 or 3 degrees, it could turn into the 1997 flood. So you're always sitting on the edge of your chair going, is this it? Is this going to happen? When are we going to call it an emergency? When are we going to tell people they have to evacuate? We're hoping it stays cold, right? So it doesn't happen, but we're kind of some winters, I mean, probably every other winter we have an event where we're like, oh no, this could be it. So it's not a matter of when or if it's going to flood, it's when it's going to flood. And we want to get this thing built, this project I'm going to talk to you about, before the next major flood, because we don't want to see a repeat of that kind of economic damage. If it happened again today, that flood, the 1997 flood happened again today, just in the area around the airport and the Reno Sparks industrial area, just those couple areas, it would cause over $2 billion in economic damage. And that would really put a dent in our tax base, in our employment. People lose their jobs. It's a big deal, and it's something that keeps me up at night I got to get this thing done.
So how much more resilient to that sort of flood event are we now compared to how we were in '97?
Actually not much, but we're much better at regulating the reservoirs upstream. We're much better at predicting the flood coming so we can warn people to make sure that they get out of harm's way. Some of the building codes have helped, and so some of the newer buildings are raised slightly so that they're better off, but in many places it's really they're very vulnerable still. And that's why we need this project.
So what's left on the project that you think is going to increase our resiliency? What are the big pieces?
The big pieces are, first of all, we have a large project down on the east side of Sparks called Vista Narrows, and what we're trying to do is widen the river in that area and open it up to lower the flood waters in the East Reno, South Reno areas as well as around the university area so that the water level isn't so high. And then we want to put a series of levees along the north bank, which would protect, moving upstream from there, which would protect Sparks, the Sparks industrial area. Then after that, we have levees on both sides of the river, right around Rock to McCarran. And that's an area where we actually purchased 168 acres of floodable property about 15 years ago. So we have this great opportunity. We spent millions of dollars on this property. It's all floodable, but we can configure it in such a way that it actually prevents flooding, but then it also helps restore the river and provide recreational opportunities.
Yeah, this is a really cool, like, triple win, and we've got a couple renderings to show people of what these concepts could look like if we want to pop up the first one. So here we have one concept. This one has a bunch of sports complexes in it. Tell me about this idea here.
Well, this idea is strongly supported by people in the community that have kids that play soccer or play other flat field sports. And so there's been studies, recreational studies, that say that they're about 50 fields short in the Reno area. They're being underserved, and so they're overcrowded and things like that. So there is very strong support in the community. I've received 228 written comments just in the last few weeks. Many of those comments are, we need more flat fields. Can you get these fitted in? You know, we love the river stuff, we love the ecosystem too, but we want to get something out of that for flat fields. So that's one aspect of that with that concept, and there is a lot of community support for that.
Okay, and then the second concept doesn't have the flat fields, has a lot more hiking and walking trails.
Right, and this option is very much like what you would see at Oxbow Park, except that when you add this all together, it's about 6 Oxbow Parks. It's that big. In fact, if you think about it in terms of Idlewild Park, the river part, the part that would be nature with either option, is twice as big as Idlewild. And this is why there's so much interest in it. There's a lot at stake here. And even the outer areas where the ball fields would be, or then further nature, like in this option that people are looking at right now, that area is about 1.5 times as big as Idlewild Park.
Wow. So then if either of these are built, you say it's floodable. So does that mean the fields and the walking trails and everything would flood in the event of a major flood, and that's by design?
And it's almost like wizardry with the hydraulics. Hydraulics is a study of water and how it flows and things like that. It's not really hydrology, but it's how the water moves around like a river would, like open channels and things like that. Well, by looking at that very carefully, we can figure out ways to route that water to make the peak of the flood lesser and provide floodable fields that are protected most of the time. But in those really, really high floods, then they will flood like once every 50 years. But that actually takes off from the 100-year flood. So these fields are actually providing a benefit for flooding and providing a place where we can either have nature passive facilities, or we can have a more active park with ball fields. Either way, they're going to provide that flood benefit.
What a cool concept, because it's providing something that community can use and really enjoy, and also adds to the safety of the region. So, I mean, win-win all around.
Right, and this is not a new idea. This originally was called the Living River concept, and they didn't have all of this worked out. We've done a lot more quantitative, scientific, engineering type work on this to really figure this out. But they had that kind of concept where they wanted to have floodable features, a park, and also restore the river all in one place. And that's between Rock and McCarran bridges on the Truckee River.
Okay, so you're still taking public feedback on this one, and it's going to come up for a vote here eventually. If people want to weigh in or get more information on this or come to some of the public meetings, how do they do that?
Well, they just come to our website. We are going to have another what we called working group, and that last working group, that will be next Wednesday, and we're going to have it later at night at 6 p.m. so more people can get involved. That was a comment people were making. please make this later. And so we're doing that. And so they can get involved there, they can participate in that, and we will open up comments again for people. So far we've had 228 comments just on the last working group meeting. So obviously a high level interest in this one park. But remember, it's just one part of a larger project that's trying to prevent the flooding damage of a 1997-like flood that could cause $2 billion in damage. That's the big picture. The park, I know people are very focused on that, but the flooding and also the ecosystem restoration of the river. The river's in bad shape in places, and we want to help get that river to a more natural condition as well. So we're trying to walk and chew gum at the same time.
All right. So TRFMA, TRFMA is what to Google to get to your website.
TRFMA.org, I believe, will get you there.
All right, and there's a lot of good information on there. I just perused it myself. We have just about 30 seconds left. What's your final message to people who are watching this and wondering about flooding?
TRFMA does more than just this project. We do flood management. We were talking earlier about this very building here gets flooded. And anybody that lives in a floodplain, or especially the Truckee River floodplain, they could come to our website and really learn and understand where they are at in the floodplain, how deep would the water be, what kind of things, what kind of plans they can make to help mitigate their own situation on their own property. So that's a big message, and that's also going to be available at TRFMA.org. And we are going to have a special area for that called Know the Flow coming up.
Okay, great information, George. Thank you so much. We are out of time, but I do appreciate you. That is it for this episode of Face the State. We will see you next week. All right.